Hey, how's it going, guys? Ricky Summer here, and today I've come back in time to take an old tune from 2 years ago and revamp it so I can release it, hopefully by the end of this year. Cue the intro. Welcome to what has tentatively been titled Villain. This is a track that I put together, it's mostly done. I put it together 2 years ago. I actually did it on stream. I'm going to put a link to that VOD on Twitch in the description if you're interested in checking that out. The first thing I noticed rewatching that VOD is my voice was so much higher just 2 years ago. I don't know what happened. I don't know what's happened in 2 years. My voice has gotten so much lower. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. It just blew my mind. Anyway, so this is something I put together kind of inspired by this image of a mech warrior scene that I have in my head that sort of that kind of epitomizes the emotion and the feeling of the Mech Warrior franchise to me. And it's a solitary Mech Warrior riding out into a desolate, empty wasteland and then just stopping, shutting down their mech, climbing on top and taking a break. There's just something about that imagery that I like. It's wading through the dangerous world in a suit of armor that you can then take off and you put down your burdens. You just relax and you let it all go. And then when you're ready to keep on going, to fighting through the hell that is life, you can get back in your armor and you can keep going. Who needs therapy? Just write songs, right? Anyway, so it was initially titled Battlescape for obvious reasons because of what I just described. But then, I started to write the lyrics and I retitled it Villain. So I'm going to play a little bit of the original recording, which I don't hate. I just think it's missing something. And I'm going to explain a little more, a few more reasons why I'm going to try and recreate it. Firstly, it hasn't been released in 2 years, so clearly there's something about it that I feel it's not ready yet. So I'm going to fix that up. All right, so I'm going to play just the first verse here and then like the hook at the end, so you get the general idea of what's going on.
I walked down to the valley of death this morning. It felt like home. I shed my 10-ton freedom. It was weighing me down. The bottom of the bottle holds the answers, hides the answers. And now a voice in the back of my head keeps screaming, please don't stop now.
All right. As you can hear, very moody. Let me just cut off that VST there. By the way, if you ever have VSTs glitching, like instruments glitching or any issue at all with your VST plugins, or even if they're just like sounding out because they've got a really long tail, lots of reverb or delay or something, and you just want to cut it out, hit F3. It's a beautiful time to be alive. It's gone, right? Real nice. Especially good with VSTs that like to glitch out a lot and just like keep playing and playing forever. Okay, so let's go to the very end here as well. This is my favorite part. This is like the structure of it is a little non-standard. We've got like verse, not really a chorus, but like a break. So it's like verse, break, verse, break, verse, break, and then chorus or like hook. And that's what this is here.
I've been a villain, I've been a hero, I've been higher, I've been at zero, I've been lost and I've been grieving, I've been searching for something to believe in, I've been alone with no one to lean on, I've been waiting for someone to come along and break my skin with your disco arrow, be my savior, punk rock hero.
And then it just keeps going, it repeats that, but with a little guitar texture in there as well. Okay, so what's the problem with the song? This has been a really tough one for me. Just for a little bit of context, usually the way I work is I get 95% of a track done in one day, a week, tops. And then the last 5% is over several months, and I'm just tweaking here and there, very minor adjustments, including mixing and all that sort of stuff. So I don't tend to workshop songs really at all. This is just like a bad penny. I keep coming back to keep workshopping just a little bit here and there. And the problem is it's so close, I think. It's either so close. You can think of it like almost like two timelines, you know, like a splinter off timeline, Back to the Future Part 2 style. We've got the main timeline, which is what the track should be and will ultimately become. But then at some point I split it off, and I lived in this world for a second. I'm like, hey, yo, this is still pretty good. And we start to get to the end of it, and then we realize, oh, wait, like it's good, but it's not right. That's a very weird way to explain things, but this is how my mind works. I'm a time traveler. You know, arrest me, whatever. Anyway, so I feel like I'm so close to it being done that I can't see, and I'm too attached to components that need to be stripped away. For example, I love the vocal. I love how it's dirty and gross, but I think it needs to be redone, and that's one of the main things that I'm changing. I'm going to swap over to the new version of it, which isn't going to sound as good because nowhere near complete. I'm still just like piecing things out, deciding what I want to do with it. But the vocal I really like. It's really interesting. It was born out of me actually writing the track too low for me to sing it comfortably. Like I can sing it, but it doesn't sound good. So I put it through this vocal processing. This is the mouth, and it's a great little vocal processing effect, VST, that I like to play around with. So it's I wouldn't necessarily classify it as a vocoder, but it has that kind of functionality. You can do some funky stuff with that. So I just started with a broken tape preset, and I've played around with it a little bit. You'll also notice some pitch correction. Pitch correction is, I think this deserves a whole other video. It's, in my opinion, pitch correction, some of you may know it as auto-tune, but auto-tune isn't really the right term for it. But pitch correction is a tool. It's not a band-aid. I feel like if you're using it, in my opinion, if you're using it to fix the vocal because it's not good enough otherwise, nah, dog, that ain't it, chief, you know. But if you're using it to enhance an already decent vocal, it can add just a little bit of sparkle. It's situational, and make no mistake, it's not like it doesn't outright fix bad singing, in my opinion. At least not the plugins that I use. You still have to mostly hit the notes. Anyway, I've had to put that on just so that my mouth plugin would actually register the correct notes, because it uses its own sort of auto-tune function. And if you bend notes as much as I do when I'm singing, because I come from a blues background, if you bend notes as much as I do, then it can have a bit of trouble latching onto the notes. So I've run it through pitch correction to steady out some of the notes, so that then the mouth plugin can actually find the correct notes. It's this whole thing. It was a big deal to get that sound, which I think is partially why I'm so attached to it. So lesson number 1 for this video: there's a time and a place for tearing down the constructs of your very reality and starting again. You know, to put that into literal human speak, sometimes you just got to take a song that isn't quite there yet, and it doesn't matter how much you may love it, you got to start again. Even just to get a fresh perspective on it, because then you may end up coming back to the original track anyway and going, hey, yo, all I had to do was change this, and I just couldn't see it before because I was so, you know, deep in the bolognese here. Okay, first issue, the vocal. It's too low, it gets lost. I've actually gotten some pretty scathing feedback from promoters saying that like the vocal is trash. I disagree, but I understand where they're coming from. It's not a pop vocal, right? it's something, it's moody, right? It's not something that you hear on the radio and you dance to necessarily. So in order to get a cleaner vocal, a more pop vocal, I got to raise the pitch of the song. So I think we're around B here, I think. And I've moved it up to F, I believe is the case. So all I've done here is quite literally just copied the MIDI over from one track to a new track. And this also gives me the opportunity to play around with some more instruments, with different instruments to get a different tone. Because I've grown quite a bit in the 2 years since I first put this track together, and I have different processes and I favor different instruments. So it's a great opportunity to modernize a track that I wrote 2 years ago. So there's one thing that I got to add in here that I missed. It's this little thing right here. And in fact, these two tracks is what I need to add. What's labeled as wine, not wine, wine, and the strings, which they're playing the same thing. So let me just solo those. Right? That unsettling nonsense right there. So all I've done is just highlighted those two, copy the MIDI. Now we're going to go over to the new track. Where did I put it? Just above the bass. There. And as you can see, it copies over the automation as well, which is incredibly handy. So then let's go back and we'll have a look at strings. What have we got? We've got Super VHS and we've got Synth 1. So you know what? For the moment, what I'm going to do is just straight up copy the effects there, and I'll get rid of SQ8L, and I'm just going to paste that in. So now it's going to be, for the most part, identical. And we'll do the same with the wine. What did we use here? SQ8L Voyager. Yeah, cool. Okay. Let's copy those. And paste that in. Magnificent. Now let's have a listen. First up, issue. I accidentally put the I accidentally put those within the bass bus, which is not what I want. Let's try that again. Issue number 2. I didn't change the key of those. So they are in B. I'm going to raise that up to F. And you know what? Maybe just to make this simpler, I'm going to get rid of one of these tracks. Or just mute it for the time being. Okay, so let's switch over the string part as well. This all might be a little bit too high, so I might end up dropping everything down the octave. But let's have a listen. Yeah, nah, that ain't it. So what I'm doing here is referred to as layering. It's two identical parts with different instruments, just to create a sound that you might not otherwise be able to get with just one instrument. It also can thicken up a part if it's too sounding too thin or getting lost. All right, so let's bring this down the octave. Let's see how it sounds. It might end up getting lost, but we'll see. Right, and then we've got to change the pitch of all this as well. You know what? I think I do prefer it being up high. Something else I can do is a little bit of both. Anyway, that's like a minor thing that we can deal with at a later date. Ultimately, the goal was to have this in a key that is going to sound better for my voice. For example... I've been a villain, I've been a hero, I've been a high, I've been at zero, I've been lost and I've been grieving, I've been searching for something to believe in, I've been alone with no one to lean on, I've been waiting for someone to come along and break my skin with your disco arrow, be my savior, punk rock hero, so on and so forth. What am I missing here? There's something else missing that I haven't carried over. I also named things differently back then. So I'm going to call that wine. This one, strings again. Follow the same convention. The bass used to be called drive. This I think, yeah. That's correct. That's, yeah. All right. This is part of the issue, you know? Your processes change. Oh, there's also this swell thing I have to copy over.
I want to come along and break my skin with your disco.
Yeah, that was a nice little bit. And then steady on there. Oh, man. Look, it's this whole thing, huh? Right? It's so... What I've done to the arpeggiator is different enough that it's changing the very tone of it. What was it before? Hard 80s towel? Oh, yo. All right, let's switch it over to that. Let's see what it sounds like. So I've got Analog Lab here. I'm going to cut out Analog Lab and go Noisemaker. Again, it's a towel plugin. All the towel plugins are great. What is this? So it'll be bass. We're looking for hard 80s towel. All right, let's see what that sounds like. Let's play from over here. I'm pretty sure this is too low, so we need to bring it up. Oof. Yeah, I think that's getting a little bit closer. So what I'm hearing, what I was hearing that I didn't like was the arpeggiator was so high and we were just missing any bass information. Now, part of that is because the bass just kind of cut out entirely. Also, the bass automation is totally whack. So part of this is going to be putting out fires. Like I said, from 2 years ago, my processes have changed drastically. So the automation for the bass 2 years ago is totally not how I work now. So it's completely inappropriate for the way that I work now. So let's pull that bass back in here. It's way too loud. Yeah, yikes. Oof. I almost feel like the bass needs to be just redone, you know? In fact, you know what? Get rid of all its automation. All of it. Gone. Have I EQ'd this at all? It's too much. What was I thinking with this? And then, like, that's not even fixed yet. That's better. Yeah, that's what I want. So when I first copied it over, I'm like, yo, this is the bass, so let's make it pump and sound bassy. No, in this particular track, the bass is really more of a texture. And so between the kick and the bass, it's just kind of, it's a rhythm. So the bass does not need to pump like a dance track or whatever. I don't even know what genre this is anymore, dude. I got no friggin' idea, but something needs to be done with this track because I feel so connected to the lyrics. It needs to get out there. So the moral of this video, the moral of the story is never throw out your old tracks. Save everything, because 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, you might be stuck. You might have writer's block. You might not be able to produce anything. So have a look at your old tracks. And there's going to be a lot in there that will make you cringe, for sure. But you might stumble across something and you go, yo, I was in a different headspace back then. The wires were crossed. I was thinking differently. Producing fire that I couldn't yet even conceive of. And now with the technical knowledge you have now, you might be able to turn into something really rad. All right, so I'm gonna keep working on this thing. It's I've been workshopping this thing on and off for 2 years. If it takes another 2 years, it's gonna come out. I'm gonna turn into something rad. These lyrics need to be heard. So I'll keep you posted. For the moment, guys, thank you very much for watching. Let me know if you've revitalized an old track at any point, and how long have you gone between initially writing something and then having it actually turn into a proper song that you were comfortable with releasing, regardless of whether or not you've released it. All right. Be excellent to each other, and I'll see you next time. Ricky Summer, out.